Hello, everybody. Ni hao. Buenas tardes, Señor Jose. Vanakum. Vanakum e pardisuham nalasagam. Bonjour. Good afternoon. I can go on, as the gentleman said. I paid attention in linguistic class. First of all, I stand in awe of the magnificence of the change agents that I see here. You are all here to exercise change in education, from the past to the future, which is the title. I would ask you as one thing. Research has said that when you're having an audience or teaching a class or working with a group, it is important that you have them engaged. My students in university are always engaged. I do not let them sleep, because it's not good. So I'm going to ask you to help me to move from being passive participants in this session to active, through what I call the international language of music. Could you stand up? It takes 1 minute, please, and thank you. And just follow my lead. Good afternoon, good afternoon. It's nice to be with you. Good afternoon, and welcome one and all. 2, 3, 4. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day. My, oh my, what a wonderful day. There's plenty of sunshine heading our way. I'm glad you're with me. Hip, hip, hooray! All right, thank you very much. That was great support. I really appreciate that. I would like to let you know that I have a millennial with me. I'm very privileged to be working with students and mentoring them. And of course, I both as a teacher and a learner, because I learn from them as well as teaching. They teach me as well as learn from me. So nobody has to be a certain age to be a learner, and nobody has to be a certain age to not be willing to learn. So this is Yi-Ying Su over here, a delightful young lady and very, very talented. So on with the show. There's a picture up there. I just delivered the convocation last Wednesday for Niagara University, which I was privileged, and that's where you kind of give an address to the students who are graduating to kind of give them some impetus, to give them some inspiration as they start their career in education. So that's what that picture is with my daughter. Okay, on we go. Okay, so I'm looking at transforming education, what it means to go from the past to the future, and here we go. First of all, everybody knows Einstein. Education is not the learning of facts. It's rather the training of the mind to think. So we're no longer putting people in silos. We are opening up avenues whereby there are different options, different roads to learn by. Okay? I like Mark Tucker. What is distinctive about artificial intelligence, which is a focus of today, technologies, is that they embody the very thing that makes us so different from any other thing, animate or inanimate, on Earth. High intelligence. We are the species that has the brains to think. It is now clear that intelligent agents already exceed human capacity in some domains of intelligent behavior. I would advise you to look up the following on YouTube. It's called Do You Know 2018, and look at the changing of the landscape of the world. Another one is Do You Know 2028? So it looks at the whole disruption of the education system, of the employment system, of the general operational aspects of our lives. Okay? Next. So transformation, I always like with my students, what am I talking about? What do I understand transformation to be? It's a change or alteration, especially a radical one. We are in a disruptive change, radical. In the past generations, things took years, decades to change. But now they're instant. It's the fact that we are trying to keep up with the technology, and it's just coming so fast. It's proving giving us a lot of challenges, and certainly in education, for sure. Change is constant. Change is occurring continuously. It is always to be expected condition. As I'm standing here, somebody is inventing a new app to solve a particular problem. And as you know, the apps are just numerous and continue to grow with young minds who are finding the answers, some of which are here today. I was speaking to some of the people. Is it Bubble? They were talking about some of the technology. Raise your hand there. So I'm learning also from my colleagues here. Okay, next. Okay, we moved from the blackboard to the smartboard. We moved, this is where we've been, from the M3 player to the the smartphone, which is everything. We've moved from, this is the past, the floppy disk, if anybody remembers that, to the cloud. So these are just some of the examples, just trying to draw a contrast to where we were and where we are. And even now, it's hard to keep up with the changes. Okay, so educator's goal. What is the goal of an educator, regardless? To facilitate change from what we were to what today's students will become. That's what we are here for, all of you in your various aspects. You're preparing students for where they're going to be, where you think is important for them to be in the present situation of the constantly changing educational landscape. Now, a redesign, so what is a mission? Well, the mission of the educator, it's a redesigned learning experience, fundamentally shifts the paradigm to one that is personal, and I'll explain that in a minute. Is grounded in evidence, leverages or uses technology, because that is part of our learning tools now, of course, transforms learning spaces, so now we don't just learn sitting in a desk, okay? We learn outside, we go on field trips, we go virtual reality to the Amazon jungle. Okay, so it's no longer confined. There are no barriers to your learning. Educators' professional growth, it is important for all educators, and you are here today proving that you are trying to learn about new innovative techniques in terms of education, because you want to deliver the best possible results for your students. Community collaboration, and I spoke to Senior Jose about community collaboration. Your education is no longer just confined to the schoolyard or to this classroom. It is the whole community now that you are learning from, that you need to interact with. It is now not just that in Canada, but now we're talking about globally. We have students now in high school who are working on projects with students over in India, South Africa. Okay, so it's a whole different dynamic that we have to make sure that we are ready for, to embrace. And ultimately ensure sustainability, because we are trying to make sure that this is not a one-shot deal. This is a continuous growth. It never ends. You're always discovering new ways, new techniques. So what is the 21st century learner? Because that's what it's all about. And this is one of the things, you can see some of the topics. Skills, characteristics, and qualities. Certainly, first and foremost in our minds here today is technological literacy. Okay? Now, if you remember back, okay, now we have students, and I'll get to that in a minute, starting with computers and with technology, kindergarten, even before, even in preschool. Critical thinking. We want people to be thinkers of themselves, to critical think, to not be taking one particular point of view and saying, that must be the fact because I've heard it on CNN, CBC. No, that is one of the media, but not the only one. So we want them to look at a couple of newspapers. We want them to look at a couple of websites. So not just to be mimicked, okay, as some sort of puppets, but for them to think for themselves, analytically. Communication, of course, we communicate. There were times we communicated differently. Now we communicate instantly. And we have, of course, all the different apps to make sure that we can talk instantly, okay? For example, my son tells me, Dad, we don't use email anymore. No, that's no. Okay, we're using WeChat in China, where I've just returned. I've been over in China many times. I was over in China, in Shanghai, lecturing. And of course, it's all WeChat. Everything is WeChat in China. You pay your bill, you pay the cab, everything. Okay, so therefore, I had to put WeChat on when I went over to China a year ago and get acquainted with WeChat. So communication is technological, okay? And there are many different ways we communicate, and we know all the different ways. Okay, we've got WhatsApp, we've got so on and so forth. Collaboration, we need to realize that we must work collaboratively because we are now in a global educational landscape, not just a Canadian educational landscape, but a global. We are preparing citizens, 21st century learners, to be global citizens of the world, because that is the media, that is the operational theater that they're going to be working in. Creativity and innovation. You have a problem. That's certainly very, very notable in the millennial generation. They see a problem, they come up with an app. Okay, very, very self-resilient, very, very self-determined. And of course, resilience. Now, this is interesting. Resilience means if you fail, you've tried something, you become disheartened. You become, I don't think I can do that algebra course. I've failed it twice, or I don't get this concept, and you give up on yourself. But resilience means that you never give up. So you never degrade yourself and say, I can't do that, therefore I'll give up. I'll take the easy subjects in high school because they're easy and I don't have to think. We have to embed in our students the fact that they must test themselves, they must push themselves to be the best they can be. And therefore, failure is just a step, a momentary delay in the learning process. It's not the end result. And I reckon, I reflected on a question or on an experience with Senor Jose and his daughter about when I was doing my PhD. And I finally had submitted my draft for about the 5th or 6th time. And you submit your paper to the supervising professor. And I got a whole bunch more of red marks thinking that I had finally done a brilliant piece of work. I've done it 5 or 6 times and finally I think I got it right. I got all these red marks. So I said to myself, I just don't think I can do it. So I want to respect my professor, so I will go in and say, I'm going to give up. I'm not going to do it. And he taught me a very important lesson about myself. He looked at me very calmly and he said, number one, he said, do you think you're the only person who's ever been told that he hasn't got it right yet? Number two, do you think you're Einstein? And number three, are you a quitter? That empowered me to say, no. He believed in me. And as a teacher and as an educator, you've got to make sure that you help your students believe in themselves through the fact that you believe in them. Very important, that personal relationship. The most important thing in learning is the relationship you have with your instructor-teacher. Okay? If there's no personal value in it, why should a person do something? There's a lot of research in that. Okay, thank you. So, technological literacy, okay, the ability to use, manage, understand, and assess technology, which will not come as a surprise to anybody here, also referred to as IMT literacy, information, media, technological literacy, different names. Okay, fine, we've got that. Presently, we have a tsunami of information via apps, websites, software, etc. And some examples of statistics, please.
So I'll just give you guys current statistics. Right now, Facebook has 845 million monthly active users using it in 70 different languages. Twitter gets 50 million tweets per day. Google gets 31 billion searches every month. And as for text messages, well, the daily amount of text messages sent and received exceeds the total population of the entire planet, meaning that's over 7 billion text messages every single day. The amount of technical information that we have is doubling every 2 years. And by 2028, 50% of all currently existing jobs will be replaced by artificial intelligence.
So it's kind of a scary, uncertain future. So we need to be equipped with as many skills, but the skills have to be current. We have to look at skills for the future. What skills are you going to need in what jobs as this disruptive economy evolves and develops? Okay. Questions to examine. What is relevant to your needs as a learner? So, for example, what is the needs of the students that we're trying to educate, teach, improve? What is real versus fake information? We know, for example, from our American counterparts of the South, I mean, the kids today are trying to figure out what's real and what's not real. If you look at Mr. Trump, okay, everything that exists is not real. It's fake news. So now all of a sudden, we need to have our students be critical and look at that and say, well, just because Mr. Trump says that, is that totally true? What about some of the other points of view? We need to make sure that they delve beyond just what one person says or one outlet says. That's the whole idea of critical analysis. So again, evaluate the source. Don't just look at one source. We're teaching our students, okay, to look, to make their decisions, to learn by looking at as many sources as possible. How to use the information ethically. That's another big thing in terms of more so the business aspect of technology. Okay, there's a lot of things. We think about, for example, recently, remember, trust takes years to earn, but seconds to lose. Just ask Roseanne Barr. Okay? All right, so they all require critical thinking. All right, critical thinking, what does that mean? The objective analysis of a fact to form a judgment. So you, as a university student, you kind of get all the different sources, all the different opinions, okay? And you kind of weave through them, study them, and come up with your concept based on pieces of different people and what you feel makes sense to you and what you can prove, of course, not just the fact that you believe it. The ability to design and manage projects. Okay, these are the skills. This is what they're looking for in business and employment. Manage projects, solve problems, and make effective decisions using a variety of tools and resources. And that's what technology is about, because there's a multitude of different applications and different tools in technology that continue to evolve daily. Okay? Communication, the ability, this is another one, we're talking about each of those, remember those characteristics, okay? The ability to communicate effectively, orally, in writing, digital writing, of course, and with a variety of digital tools as well as listening skills. Very important that people listen before they talk. Because remember, we have got 2 ears and 1 mouth. That tells us that we need to be listening carefully when we're trying to learn something. Okay? Collaboration. Okay, I've talked about a global citizen. We're preparing students today for the world. But the ability to work in teams, diverse teams of different racial, cultural ethnicities and abilities, learn from and contribute to the learning of others, use social networking skills, which certainly the millennials are into, and demonstrate empathy in working with diverse others. Having a sense of understanding of the needs of other people or the way other people do things. Cultural competency, socioeconomic class, ethnic background. So therefore, that is what makes a difference. Now, when we're looking at any sort of team, diversity improves the outcomes. If everybody is the same, you have a less potential to reach the outcome, the desired outcome. That has been proven in research. Okay? If you have all men and no women, or all women and no men, you don't have the best team because you don't have different perspectives. Okay? Creativity and innovation. Definition. Okay, what do I understand? Creativity is the pursuit of new ideas, concepts, products that meet a need in the world. Certainly, some of the products that you will be talking about today that are already being discussed in the world or maybe even launched, that is because somebody saw something and they wanted to come up with a solution. Definition. Innovation, the other key word in terms of looking at artificial intelligence, contains elements of creativity and is often described as the realization of a new idea in order to make a useful contribution to a particular field. Student outcome for these. Participatory culture, from passive to active. You came from being passive to active by helping me out with the musical beginning. Student outcome participatory also involves engaged in the process. I had you engaged in the process as co-learners. Because the old way of where I stand up and I lecture, okay, that's one way. Communication is not one way. Communication has got to be more than one way. So it's to, from. And finally, creators rather than just consumers. So now you are training people, and certainly in the world of technology, they are creating solutions, they are creating programs, they are creating apps. Okay. Resilience, and I've talked about resilience, not giving up. The ability to manage setbacks and disappointments. So raise your hands. I just have a quick question. Do you win most of the things you do, or do you not win? Think about your things that you do. Are you successful all the time or some of the time? Raise your hand if you're successful all the time in everything you do. Okay, that's very natural. So you are successful in some of the things you do, but not all of them. So when something that you do, whatever that is, it doesn't work, you're very annoyed, you're very angry, you're very upset. Give me an example of a setback. A setback is when you have your paper or your essay, okay, and a lightning storm comes and you didn't press save, and there goes your 5 pages or your 10 pages of work gone. Wow, it's happened to all of us. It means that you have to kind of suck it up and get back and start all over again, because it's not going to magically appear. So setbacks is when things don't work out. Okay, we've got to make sure our kids are resilient. All right. So, a person who never makes a mistake never tried anything new. It means you are the status quo. You are stale and stagnant. And that is not the rule for success in today's constantly changing educational environment. You need to be adaptable all the time. So, neuroplasticity, there's some research. Now, what does that mean? It's the ability of the brain to change throughout an individual's life. Now, there are all sorts of things that are fancy words, okay, in terms of parts of the brain. But basically, so if you've played piano, and finally, at age 15, you decide you don't practice and you lose that ability to play the piano. So 5 years later, you go back, you're rusty because you've lost a lot, because you haven't used that part of the brain to learn how to play the piano again. So if you don't use something in your brain, it becomes out of use because you're not using it. It becomes rusty and it just becomes kind of stale. So what I'm trying to point out is that there is no capacity to what a person can learn. No capacity. Okay? You keep on studying, you keep on expanding, your brain will adapt and take all that information in. But it needs to be constantly practiced, looked after, nurtured. Okay, so you learn how to become a concert pianist because you play so many hours a day for every single day of the week. Michael Merzenich is an expert in brain plasticity, and I'm just quoting him up there because he does a terrific job in explaining how the brain readsents itself all the time. That's something we need to know about, because with the technology, how is the brain adapting to all the different technology uses? How does that help us learn technology? How does it help us utilize technology in the way we learn? Okay? So now new learning is always possible. Educators' goal is to nurture in students that self-learning is ongoing and limitless. Now, we don't stand up as a teacher. We provide an outline for the students, but they engage it themselves. They are very independent learners because they have so many resources to go to help in their own learning. Okay? How can we transform education? By integrating new technologies. Example, we know we're going to hear about that today, virtual reality. And gamification, which is fun, familiar, generational structure. I just want to let you know, there's a lot of parents and a lot of educators who have a problem or concern with games. My son or daughter is playing games 20 hours a day or 15 hours a day or whatever. So they're wondering about, is there any upside to this? Is there any positive to playing games? Or is it just all bad and all waste of time and just having fun and they're not learning anything? Okay, so let's have a look at that. Technology is the essential tool for learning, connecting, and collaborating. So we know the technology is important. So we're looking, the next thing, I just want to get on to the games thing. So virtual reality, we've talked about that, and everybody else will be talking about it. So we see the real inside, for example, in health. We get to go to the Amazon jungle or whatever. But virtual reality, virtual field trips, as I said, now if I want to find out what it's like in Argentina, Senor Jose, or Spain, Senor Jose, I can actually take people on a field trip virtually to Spain to have a look at something in Spain or in Argentina or whatever, including locations in outer space. So now we can take kids up to the Milky Way. Allow students to experience things that they may not have access to. So now, if there are students who are poor who can't afford to go to Argentina, like middle-class parents, we can take them there. So that levels the playing field and creates a fair and equitable education system for all people, regardless of their socioeconomic status. Content creation, virtual design, architecture, draw and CD. We know we have, we can take our something and it produces a copy, CD, 3D copy right now, for example, for something. We know that when it comes to architecture, we can see a finished product of what the house is looking with very specific specifications. So in building a house or doing architectural design, okay, we've got that use of technology, which has changed the whole thing. Content creation doesn't need actual resources or materials because we've got everything available now to be able to use architectural drawings, okay, which never were before, but now they're available. In medicine, we don't need the doctor necessarily always to perform intrusive surgery because now it's available with technology where you can look inside. Teaching tool used to train. Gaming culture. Now here's what I'm talking about. One common characteristic of current students is the attraction to gaming, predominantly in boys but not exclusively. Parents need to shift the paradigm from seeing games as contradictory to education, because I know that's a concern for many of the parents, okay, that you would be working with. Okay, well, I mean, I didn't have this, so parents who didn't grow up with that tend to look at games or having fun, but what's the value in terms of the child's brain development? Okay. Gaming involves, here we are, multitasking, which is a very important thing. Eye-hand coordination, okay? Improves communication via online chats through text, voice, and video. So for example, they can be sitting there playing a game with somebody over in China, but at the same time, they're texting to somebody down the street. So multitasking is a very big, it is a skill. Involves teamwork. Multiple players, for example, there might be 3 or 4 players involved in a game in different parts of the world or different parts of the country. So that's teamwork. They're all trying to work together towards a common goal in whatever game it is. So, fantasy, every team, for example, this is an example, it's a fantasy game where you have to become king of the castle, so to speak. Every team member has a specific role. So in this, there are 4 different parts. So every single person has a part to play in this game. So that's teamwork, but they only get to the castle if they all help each other and work together. So there's an example of developing collaboration through a technological game. They can be with peers locally, nationally, internationally, and expose players to diverse cultural partners. So they're also learning about people in different countries, okay? So they're gaining from the way they see things, okay? Okay, a game-based learning. So I'll turn that over now to, okay, Ying.
Okay, so we are just going to do a quick demonstration of game-based learning using an app called Kahoot. So if you guys have your mobile phones out, you can go to www.kahoot.it and participate in our demonstration.
So here we go from being passive to active participants in learning. This is one simple example that I use a lot of the times. And I've got some very simple questions, by the way. But you're able to taper. This can be used by people who are teaching or tutoring by looking at it for reviewing materials, so as a review of whatever you've taught, or of an introduction to find out what they don't know about the topic. So it's a very good tool. It's practical. It's not just fun, although it gives you information, but the students might see it as fun. But it gives you data that's important to work with, so very important.
Okay, so all of you with Kahoot.it open, you can enter in the game pin on the screen and select you can input your name or a nickname and you should see it come up on the screen. And what it is it uses a game format, like a quiz game, in order to teach and review course content. So we created this quiz with 3 simple questions on it.
One of which is dealing with social science, one in math, and one in language. So just to kind of give you an idea, okay? And it's very basic. So we have all the students in the class now are excited. They're involved. They're not sitting there listening to me talk. They're actually involved, okay? So this is a good way to remember. You can review material at the end of a content lesson, or you can introduce it to find out exactly, like a gap analysis. What do they know or not know?
And so when I hit start, you're going to see a question come up on the screen. And on your phone, so on the screen, there will be 3 answers, each corresponding to a shape, which you will see on your phone. So you select the correct answer on your own cell phones.
And you have 10 seconds. I've just made it, you can make it more than that, but I've just made it for the sake of time, 10 seconds for you to put in an answer one way or the other. So welcome to the class of active involvement.
All right, is everyone ready? Yeah? Okay, I'm going to start now.
Okay, first question. What is the capital city of Canada? Okay, 8 seconds, 7 seconds, okay? So what shape are you going to put in? Triangle, circle, or quadrant? And the time is up. Wow! Okay, so for example, you find out who knew it, but also somebody who would need a little bit more help in that. Okay, some remediation to help them in that. And that's important for a teacher or an educator. Okay, next. Way to go. Now, English. What is a conundrum? You have 3 choices. Is it a type of food, a problem, or a device used for cooking? And it looks like, oh wow, Tini's doing very, very good. Wow. Ooh. All right. So finally, a little math question. What is the value of pi r squared? It's an algebraic term. Pi r squared. What is the value of pi r squared?
Everyone knows their math.
All right, so there you are. That's just a little example. I just wanted to kind of get you to show that, okay, the learning, that's cooperation, it's communication, it's participation, okay, and they're the kind of things that obviously technology provides for us that we didn't have before. It's endless in terms of its learning potential. Okay, so do we have a winner here? Is Ging, is this person the top scorer? Where is Ging? Where is Ging? Where is, oh! Very good. Stand up, come on. We give him applause because he is a mark of distinction. All right, very, very good. Thank you very much also for everybody for being participation. Okay, finally, come to the last part, sir. Thank you very much. Now, final quote. Our job as educators is obvious. We need to get out of the way, shine a light. I'm going to get to it, I hope. Shine a light, anyway, get out of the way, shine a light, and basically let them explore, involve. Because if you look at, you won't be working with this, but in terms of kindergarten, it is called a play-based curriculum. Play-based, okay? They're supposed to uncover things, figure out things, decisions, problem solving, sharing, and all that kind of stuff. So it's shine a light and empower, equip them with the tools. A new generation, which is our millennials and our post-millennials, to teach itself and to go further and farther, faster than any generation ever has, says Seth Godin. So finally, as an educator, our role is to be eventually what they call a guide on the side. A guide on the side. You're facilitating, supporting, and helping them move forward, but you're empowering them with the abilities they have, and you reinforce that through praise, through acknowledgement, but also through honest feedback. So that's basically what I wanted to just get to you. And finally, that's a very good friend of mine. His name is Congressman Pete Sessions, and he's from the great city of Dallas, Texas. And I work a lot with him on education. He is the congressional leader for educational reformation with regards to technology. Sorry. So there's some of the notes. And I want to just let you know that I am going to be staying around because I want to learn from listening to my colleagues, and then I will be around all day. So I didn't give a chance for a lot of questions because I have nobody. Somebody's supposed to show me the sign, and I can't find. Who's got the sign to tell me that I've got 1 minute or no? No? Okay, so can't find the sign. Okay, so I just want to let you know that I will take questions. I can take 2 questions now. Okay, just 2? Two questions, and I will be around at the end of the day. If there's any other questions, I will make myself available. That's out of respect for you people having given me the privilege of your presence and of your time. Anything quick? Okay, all right. So thank you very, very much. Merci bien. Muchas gracias. Thank you.